All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our weekly real estate backstory. My name is Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum Realty and Realtor Partners. Now, my lovely bride, who normally joins me, and my partner is not with me today. She actually has jury duty, so she is doing her civil obligations right now. So you're just kind of stuck with me for the day. So I want to kind of start off talking about and just speaking to the real estate professionals. Are you busy or are you productive? Because there's a big difference between the two. And I see a lot of times that, understanding that being busy is not profitable. It's about being productive. And to be profitable, you really have to make sure that you're doing MMAs. And what MMAs are, money making activities. These are the activities that we do that actually generate business for us. So if your work is really easy, less stressful, less profitable, you're probably doing busy work, just being straight up. Now, most of the time, the our money-making activities like using the phones, reaching out via social media, making our phone calls, calling past clients, following up on our leads. Those are your money-making activities that you really have to make sure that you're putting in place. So remember that a goal without a plan is simply a wish. So we have to be focusing on those money-making activities. It's super important that we have those kind of things going on to help us grow our business out there. Now, I also want to kind of change gears and talk just briefly about a new lending tree survey that just kind of came out. And so in that survey, it was a question about marriage or mortgage, what comes first? And so with our Gen Zs and our millennials, what we're seeing is that about a third of your Gen Z and over 25% roughly of your millennials say they plan to postpone marriage until they have a mortgage, until they get a house. And this is an important thing for us, right? Because the average cost of an engagement ring, that kind of stuff, it's pretty close to what it's going to cost you for a down payment on a house. And so we're seeing where a lot of our younger buyers, like a third of our youngest buyers, and then 20% plus of our millennials are wanting to get that house first. So for us, it's got to be, we have to make sure our mindset's right, because sometimes we think, oh, well, they got to get married first. Like we're seeing less and less married couples in the housing market right now. So don't trap yourself into feeling like you have to be like only focusing on folks who are married, that kind of stuff. Right now, the share of single women buyers is the highest it's ever been. Uh, Unmarried, or the share of married people is actually some of the smallest it's ever been right now. I do want to share a news headline with you guys that's come out, and I want to talk about this just briefly here. And so, the Department of Justice has proposed an end to seller paid commissions for buyer's agents. And for a lot of people, this is like this seems like incredibly scary. But really, it comes down to it's in the details. And so what the Department of like with all the lawsuits swirling around now, there's about a bazillion copycat lawsuits going on. Ever since Sitzer Burnett, this whole thing with lawsuits has just kind of been going crazy. And now the Department of Justice is really chiming in. And so, but the headline doesn't really speak to what's truly going on. When they say they propose an end to seller paid commissions for buyer's agents, what they're saying is what they're opposed to is that the listing agent negotiates on the behalf of the buyer and the buyer's agent. And like in the past, it's always been like on our listing agreements, it says that this is going to be the total amount of commission paid, and then this is how much that you agreed to share. And what the Department of Justice says, that's not how it should be. Department of Justice says, you, Mr. Listing Agent, Mrs. Listing Agent, you should negotiate your commission, but then that buyer's agent should be the one that negotiates. That buyer should be able to negotiate their commission with their agent, and it's okay if the seller pays that. And so it's a change in verbiage in here. And like what we're seeing right now, especially here in Georgia, is that if I try and negotiate a commission for me with a seller, that's a violation of license law. However, if I negotiate for the benefit of my buyer. And so first of all, I have to have a buyer brokerage agreement. They have to be my client for me to negotiate on their behalf. But if I am negotiating to the benefit of the buyer, because my buyers, the vast majority of our buyers don't have cash to bring to closing. They need to finance in that agent representation, their agent commission. And so in order to do that, I need to be able to negotiate to the benefit of the buyer. And it's kind of the same thing the Department of Justice is putting out right there. So don't think that when the headline is kind of, that propose an end to seller pay commissions. That's not true. They acknowledge that seller pay commissions makes a lot of sense. It's just that not that the listing agent shouldn't be the one that negotiates how much the buyer is willing to pay for their buyer's agent. That's the big change right there. All right. Moving forward, I'm going to talk about Zillow, right? And so Zillow has a new thing going on out there, and I just want to make sure you're aware of it. And so Zillow is selling basically the ability for agents to tour houses, or I'm sorry, for buyers to tour houses with a local expert. And this is turning out to be a very, very profitable, useful thing that Zillow is doing. And so basically Zillow is putting out on their site like, hey, tour houses with a local expert. And then they basically set agents up on appointments with these clients. And then those agents have to pay a pretty sizable chunk, somewhere in the 40% range for those, if one of those leads closes. And I guess the thing that I find that's most startling is, hey guys, we do this without Zillow. There's no need for us to have Zillow in the middle of this. There's no need for us to be out there, like paying out a commission for something that, guess what, we do a lot of. We tour houses with clients. It's kind of like our thing. So the fact that we're willing to go out and let Zillow be the one who offers this to clients for them to turn around, because it really does come down to relationships, right? But this is a message that we should be talking about with our clients. It's proven to be very successful for Zillow. So why wouldn't we just do this directly and like cut Zillow completely out of the thing? That's what I really don't understand with this, is that we need to make sure that this should be coming from us. This should not be coming, I mean, not that it shouldn't be. I mean, obviously it's coming from Zillow as well, but this should be a message that we are definitely talking about with our clients out there, offering this out, because, there's power and this is an easy way to form relationships with your clients. All right. So home tenure has doubled since 2005. However, homeownership tenure has doubled, but it's slightly down. So right now, the average homeowner has lived in their home for almost 12 years. Now, that's not the average seller. And so what I want to do is make sure you understand that we're talking about two different numbers here. One is, how long has the average person lived in their home? 12 years. How long has the average seller, the average person who sold, lived in their home? 8 years. So it's a different number, right? It's shorter. So the average seller has lived in their home 8 years. However, the average person overall has lived in their home for 12 years. I just want to go ahead and share that. All right. So the consumer price index and the core CPI, we've seen both of these numbers drop. And you can see what's happening with the trend when it comes to inflation. However, anytime the market is expecting that like headline or core inflation drops or goes to a certain number and it doesn't, which is the case of what happened with the inflation numbers. Even though we see steady movement in the right direction, that kind of stuff going on, we see inflation continuing to drop. It didn't drop the way that they thought it would, and therefore the markets went bonkers. And anytime the markets go bonkers, well, then we see a shift, and then that affects our 10-year treasury. And so we saw mortgage rates jump, when I say jump, inch up, okay? 13th, 0.13 of 100, kind of thing, moved up. So it did go up a little bit last week, but mainly because the markets are all over the place right now. There's always, and it really comes down to what they expecting to happen versus what actually happens. And that's a case of what happened last week. We're going to continue to see where our interest rates kind of do this, but they're steadily moving in a positive direction for us, which is what we really need. for a really strong spring season as we move into that. Now, overall, let's look at our buyers right now. So right now there's a big change in net worth by age group. So like right now, our millennials and our Gen Zs, they're growing steadily in their net worth, which is a really good thing because that's a really large segment for us. However, then kind of this is there's two sides to this coin, and that is this is also the group that's starting to incur the greatest amount of debt. And so if you look at what credit card balances are happening, you can see that our Gen Z and our millennials are continuing to borrow and to run up more and more debt. And so that's a negative for us. That makes us worry because the largest source for down payment comes from savings. And so so right now, our younger generations are actually growing more in net worth and making more money. They're just not saving as much as we really want them to be, honestly. And there's also a new study talking about how long renters are planning to buy for renters who are planning to buy within the next 12 months, how long have you been saving? So an easy stat to kind of look at is for most renters that are planning to buy, they've been saving for between 6 months to 2 years. So 1 to 2 years is the average tenure where renters save up enough for. And so that's an easy stat to kind of focus on when you're looking at attracting those first time buyers out there. Now, among those renters who are saving to buy for a home, only about 40% have saved more than $500. A lot of them are not saving enough, and that's kind of one concern we have. So we can talk about the no interest loans such as VA or USDA. We can talk about the lower down payment loans such as FHA. Down payment assistance may be an option for these buyers, but they're not saving as much. So when you are talking to your clients, it's about we want them to save. We don't want them to be house poor, that kind of thing. All right. Now, overall for our houses are getting older. Right now, the average house in the United States is 40 years old. And that number continues to increase. It used to be 30. So like we're not building enough new homes. And so our houses are getting older and older right now. And you can kind of see what that breaks out to kind of thing. Right now, 35% of all our houses were built earlier from 1969 to earlier kind of thing. And so, we only have 2% that's been built since 2020. I know that's only 4 years, but still, we're not building enough right now. We are glad to see construction going on, but the level of new construction is really not reaching where it needs to be. And our housing stock is getting much, much older. So we need to make sure that we are talking about being, for our sellers, maintaining their houses, making the repairs that are necessary. That's an important sale feature. It is. The overall home prices are up in 47 of the nation's 50 largest housing markets. The vast majority of markets are really seeing it. Now, Atlanta comes in right in the middle. And honestly, the middle is a really safe place to be. Because if you're on the extremes, on the extreme high or the extreme low, that's where you see a lot of market volatility. We're right in the median right there. So right now, so year over year, we're at about 3.7% average property value appreciation. And so we're somewhere in that 3 to 5% range moving forward this year. That's a really safe place for us to be. It means that we're not looking at a lot of volatility. Now, at the same time, talking about home prices, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and just because they're Federal Reserve Bank of New York doesn't mean that they only do things in New York, but they came out with a home price mapping. And so we have to understand that real estate's local. The housing market in McDonough or Sandy Springs or Griffin, all these, every one of these markets is very, very different. And so you can go to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and in there they have a home mapping arena, and you can go and you can see what happened in the last 12 months, 3 years, 7 years, that kind of stuff. What's happened with property values by county for the entire United States. And so what you see is the map for Georgia. And I just kind of pulled up a lot of our counties kind of thing. And so Fulton for the last year, 8.5, Cobb 6.6, Gwinnett 7.5. Henry is actually one of the lower ones, 1.4%. The largest increase in for the Atlanta MSA is actually Forsyth at over 10%. But you can see where the different counties have different property value appreciations. And so when we say 3.7% for the state, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's everywhere, right? We're always going to have markets that are up, always going to have markets that are down. So make sure that you are being able to speak intelligently with your clients about what's happening with property values. Now, overall, new listings are up, and we're glad to see that. Here and so this is just for the overall the Atlanta MSA. New listings are up by 17%, and that is really, really needed. So when you look at the year over year by being up 17%, we really, really appreciate that. However, when you look at us compared to like 2020, I mean, all the previous years, we're still really, really low. We're up over where we were, and I'm thankful for that, but we're not where we need to be on there either. So we're still in a seller's market. Now, overall, total for sale inventory, that number is we are, again, total for sale inventory is moving up as well. It's just we're not there. You can see where we've been versus previous years. We just don't have enough inventory. And even though we're seeing a positive trend, we're not there yet. Days on market, we still tend to be, on the low side right now. Overall, for the Atlanta market, days on market in January, came in right at 33 days on market. So still, like you can see, overall, we're in a heavy seller's market. Now, at the same time as I say, look, we're in a seller's market, there's some new information that said, well, how many listings are taking price cuts? Almost a quarter of them, like 23.6% of our listings in the Atlanta area had a price reduction. And so, two things. One, when we start off with being a little bit high on the price, it normally ends up costing our sellers. I know that for the sellers are like, well, I don't want to start off too low, but time is money, right? And so the challenge with listing a property that priced too high is it sits on the market. And then the longer it sits on the market, then we have to take a price reduction. But we don't have to just stop at a price reduction, right? We have 2 weeks to get a full price offer. And after that, we're not going to get a full price offer. And so now we're going to have to do a price reduction. But now we also have to start sweetening the pot a little bit. Now we have to offer closing costs. Now we may have to offer more concessions on repairs. Now we may have to throw in a home warranty. Now we may have to start buying down rates. And all those take off that net to seller. All those cost our sellers money. So coming out of the gate, priced right from the very beginning is crucial and saves your clients more money. They'll do better coming out priced right from the beginning than to come out and say, we're just going to try this price. Because, in this market, even though we have more buyers than we have sellers right now, our buyers are being very selective. They're not, it's not the summer of 2021 when you could just, we were all fighting, all our buyers are fighting over houses. Our buyers are being very discerning right now, and our sellers are having to take price reductions, and it's costing them more than if they started off the right way from the very beginning. All right. National Association of Home Builders came out, and their confidence index really shot up this past month. And so the builders are feeling a lot more optimistic, and we're really, really glad to see that. However, just like we talked about earlier, we're not building enough. And so what you see here are what's happened with single family housing starts for the last, roughly 40 years in here. And so you can see that, that green line represents the median, the average. And we are just almost reaching the average, but that average has been with a much smaller population in the past. We continue to have a very large millennial generation. We're not building enough houses. And what that actually looks like, oops, if I actually go the right way, probably. And so like if you start looking at single family housing starts since COVID and where we're at right now, we're just not doing it. So even though our builders are feeling a lot more optimistic, a lot more, like they're like, yeah, let's build. We're not seeing those numbers materialize, which is why we still need our builders to be very successful right now. We need more housing stock. It's one of those things that this is a big need for the housing industry right now. Now, overall, on a good sign, investor purchases are down. We've seen investor purchases really come down. Last year they were down. They're continuing to head down this year. And so that is very good news. However, there's always two sides to every coin. Even though investor purchases are down, what are they buying? They're buying all of our lower priced homes. They're buying our entry level homes. So, like that number continues to even though the investors are down, it's still a significant portion. Now, that's a national number. In Atlanta, we're one of the top investor targets in the nation over there. And so, now the good news in Atlanta is overall our investor purchases are down about 25% from last year. But however, 22% of all homes purchased in the Atlanta market were bought by investors. Now that's down from last year on a percentage base. It's down overall, and we are glad to see that. But what they are buying up is our starter homes. They're buying up all of our entry level homes, and that's another challenge for our first time buyers, for the folks who are trying to move into the housing market for the first time. That this is just one more challenge that we have to be ready for. There is more competition, not just between the first time buyers, but in there with our investors. Now, kind of to throw a little bit more gasoline on that fire, the nation's largest single family rental landlord out there is Invitation Homes, and they want to buy up to $1 billion in houses this year. And Invitation Homes, they've got about 7 or 8 markets in the U.S. where they operate, and Atlanta is one of those. And so they're looking to keep gobbling up more inventory. And so they're going to be selling now, silver lining here. They are going to be selling off more of their higher level, their higher priced inventory. And guess what they're going to be buying? More entry level homes. So again, a lot of pressure there for our first time buyers, but just I want to keep you in the know about what's happening and what we're really seeing going on out there. Now, this week on all of our CE and our training. So tomorrow, Remind Growing Your Business Through Farming. It's going to be in our McDonough office. Please consider taking this class. Remind, this is not Remind Docs in FMLS. This is actually being able to go out and use Remind as a farming platform to go out and be able to source and grow your client base. On Wednesday, I'm going to be over in our Conyers office. I'm teaching Making Money with Real Estate Investing. That's going to be in person in our Conyers office. It may be sold out, it may not be, but this is a really popular class. I teach both how to be an investor, how to target investors, and how to also make money as an agent, whether you represent investors or whether you are an investor yourself. And then on Thursday, over in our Carrollton office, is an appraiser's guide to CMA, and that's always fantastic information, because not that they're gonna, most of the time we're not going to use an appraiser for a CMA, but our CMAs have to be based on reality and knowing what an appraiser looks at when they do a CMA, because when they value property, I can do a CMA, but or if you do a CMA that's not based on the same realities that an appraiser is going to use, it's not going to get its financing. So, but really, that's about it for this week. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. If I can be of any kind of service, please call, text, smoke signals, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Thanks. Bye.